All right. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on what part of the world that you are signing in from. We're very excited. We have a couple of celebrities with us, as far as I'm concerned, at least. And we're going to have a good chat. Give me 1 second. All right, we have Ms. Naila Al-Musawi with us. Naila is a board member and is currently involved in a fantastic initiative, which we'll be speaking to her about, which is about counseling and Amal counseling. I'll let her give the full name of what she's doing, but she's done some tremendous work right now with the current situation that we're facing and all across the GCC and the UAE in terms of helping people deal with change and counseling, whether it's career counseling, life counseling, dealing with grief, and so on. So I'm sure Naila will have a lot to add in our current situation. And then we've got Mr. Hassan Amin with us as well. Hassan has been working in the area of leadership with Emirates NBD and has had some tremendous success on dealing with several initiatives, and I'd love to hear his thoughts on some of the leadership attributes and what are some of the leadership qualities required as we go through this current pandemic. Remember, if you're listening in, this is part of our series of sessions that we run every week, focusing on different topics and different areas. Our focus right now is on helping people in the UAE understand how to deal with the existing crisis. And we're very delighted to have Ms. Naila Al-Musawi and Mr. Hassan Amin. Naila, Hassan, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Omar. Thanks for inviting us.
Very well, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Let me start off by asking Hassan. Hassan, love to hear from you. Since 4 months, our life has turned upside down. You know, you're working from home, I guess, and so are many of your colleagues. Just curious, Hassan, 3-4 months ago when this situation started, nobody knew it was going to take this long. What did you guys start doing right away? Was there any kind of initiatives on kind of motivation, leadership development, anything that you guys started doing 3-4 months ago in March when our world turned upside down?
Thank you, first of all. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Umar, and thank you also, Naila, in joining this. Yes, I think 3 or 4 months back in March when this happened, and it was more of like a surprise and a shock to us. People were really, they don't know what to do. But we really quickly turned the table upside down and we said, now for learning. So while you are sitting at home, the one important thing is how do you overcome these challenges, okay? And where do you start? So we quickly saw the opportunity for learning. We quickly saw that there are several areas of learning which was not looked at that time when people were very busy at work and they were physically going to the meetings and up and down. So the best area for learning was now sitting at home. And we quickly grabbed our resources, which we had from the platform of online learning, and we gave quickly to our employees. And the intake was good, better than when they were really physically available in the office. So now they can learn at their own pace, and we started giving those more important than virtual classes as well. We gave more importance to these online learning and virtual classes. So that was one of the areas.
Fantastic, Hassan. And again, just I'll ask you to mute yourself on your end because otherwise we'll get feedback. Hassan, thank you for that. I'll jump to Naila and then come back to you. Look, Hassan, this is one of the things I've always kind of I've appreciated organizations that have this culture where when things turned, instead of downsizing and cost cutting and doing everything to do opposite of development, organizations that still continue to prioritize learning and development and invested in their people and took care of their people. Now, of course, we understand that difficult decisions had to be made and have to be made because unfortunately, nobody's ever seen the scope of what we're experiencing now. But while those difficult decisions were being made, companies that still took care of their people, even if they had to make redundancies and so on, they found a way to make it as soft as possible. And at the same time, they kept on investing in developing the rest of their people. And what better time to develop their people as opposed to now? Naila, talking about difficult decisions, I know you've had to deal with some instances and cases in which people are dealing with grief and job loss. From a wellness perspective, Naila, what are you seeing out there from the people that you're counseling, your organization? Please feel free to tell us about your organization as well. What are some of the things that you guys are looking at these days?
Omar, hi, good afternoon, Omar, and everybody who's logged on to the YouTube. Thanks, Omar, for initiating this kind of platform, and to Cadlang Consultancy in broadcasting this. So basically, this has been a very tough journey the past 5-6 months for all globally, on the global level. I will speak for the residents of the UAE and the initiative that I've set up, which is called Amal Counseling for a Better Tomorrow. And this initiative was basically born and created because of the crisis that we are in. And basically, in short, it's a free counseling platform to whoever would like to avail it, particularly the residents of the UAE. I've come across some very sad, sensitive cases through this time. And wellness has been a very big topic since this crisis has come through. And it's you can see it on every single page, everybody creating their own Instagram accounts. It's a corporate topic. However, I do feel that some organizations are also doing well. Some organizations have tended to have more operational priorities.
That's it.
Wellness is an aspect of our life, whether we are in crisis or not. As humans, we go through difficult stages of life, whether we are having challenges in our career, in our personal life, in our transportation, or in our health. And it's not, unfortunately, it's not integrated in our day-to-day life or corporate life or in our culture today, which sets us back as individuals because of that mindset and lack of awareness. And we find ourselves as a community where this is completely new. What is wellness? How do we get wellness? Do we need wellness? It becomes a really broad topic. So this is about wellness and the cases that I've come across. And if you want me to be a little bit specific, well, I think the wellness is basically affecting largely the people who are impacted through their health and their financial loss, whether it's a job loss or the business loss or loss of individual grieving for a loss because of the pandemic.
And we'll definitely speak about that, Naila, in detail a little bit in terms of maybe some of the success stories or maybe some of the issues that you're having to deal with. And I guess you nailed it on the head, right? That there is almost a coronavirus pandemic that happened, right? So there was the kind of healthcare scare that people had for 3-4 months. I think Hassan and you will agree, alhamdulillah, in the Emirat, this has been a success story. I think it's been a global success story, how well the UAE has managed the coronavirus, the healthcare pandemic. Now we're kind of in the middle and I'll bring in Hassan here as well, where from a financial economy perspective, we are right now struggling around the world globally, and GCC and UAE is no different from an economic perspective. And then there's going to be maybe the third big wave, if it hasn't already started, which is that wellness wave, right? Which is people stressed out and people suffering from stress-related illnesses or job loss or uncertainty and anxiety. Hassan, I'm just curious, in your experience as a leader, what have you seen in your organization or your colleagues or people that you speak to? What about this wellness piece or this piece around people feeling anxious and uncertain? Any advice, Hassan, that you would give to people, and what are you observing right now?
Okay, thank you, Amar. I think people, what they are gone through is mainly stress. So their anxiety level has increased. They have stress level also has increased. So how we can, as leaders in the UAE or as leaders in the industry, in the organization, how we can change this? So maybe we have to give more focus on employee development. Maybe by by fitness activities. So I, as in the organization, I also manage a football club. So we have across board, everyone across the organization, we have players from different countries, different nationalities, different departments. Earlier, before coronavirus, we were actually calling them weekly. We will play, get together and know each one's personality. And now people are worried, if we play, we might get sick. If we come together, we might get sick. So what are different activities? We have a broad area of our program called Let's Link. And under that Let's Link, we have different clubs. And one of the club is football club, which I manage. But the other clubs, we have fitness club, we have wellness club. What I have seen in them is we also give virtual classes to them. We also give virtual classes, that how fitness, keeping all this pandemic here and living with the pandemic, how you can still get wellness, how you can still get fitness. So we have virtual classes, we do Zumba, we do exercises, we do also, mental health. It will create mental health, stress release as well. So we have all the social activities going on. How you can, come across all this through these virtual. I think the best way what I can put is we should have technology. Technology is the only way now to help each other. Through technology, you can do many of the things. So one area is technology, how you can build wellness through technology. If you have technology, you can also have your community service high. You can build team building activities through technology and so on. I think wellness is one of the areas where people development comes as well. So
interesting. Yeah, I would pay money to watch you do Zumba, Hassan. I mean, I would pay money to watch you do Zumba. And look, fantastic, Hassan. And this is exactly what we're hearing from other organizations, that, it's not one thing, right? So it's not just maybe having, let's say, a fitness challenge or maybe a one-off webinar. Over the past maybe 4 months or so, I myself and my consultancy, we've delivered over 70 or 80 of these webinars to different organizations where we're talking about stress management, mindfulness, emotional intelligence, adaptability, all of those kind of areas of wellness. And it shocks and surprises me that this was all of a sudden people woke up. Right. And that's what Naila was saying before, that, how come the profitability and targets and sales quotas and deadlines and projects, and that was where everybody's focus was. And all of a sudden this happens. And do you remember, Hassan and Naila, in the beginning, right? The first month we used to get these emails from all the companies saying, we're with you, right? We support you. What happened to those emails? No more emails, right?
We are not with you.
Exactly. Everybody's doing whatever they need to do to survive. alive. Naila, we speak about that change curve always, right? That kind of, people, every time they have to deal with a reactive change, something happens to them, death of a loved one, God forbid, medical illness, job loss, right? That kind of shock. And then there's kind of denial, and then there's some kind of paralysis. My life is over. And then there's some anger. Why did this have to happen now? Then there's hurt, right? Why does this always happen to me? And then there's some acceptance and then healing that takes place, right? And then people kind of come out of that change curve and they find out that that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And we as human beings continue to adapt and grow. I'm just curious, Naila, to ask you, the people that you're dealing with, the wellness initiatives, the counseling that you're doing, how have you found people? Are they still in that resistance or denial phase that this will all go away and we'll return to a normal? Or have people accepted that maybe, like Hassan said, this is the new normal and this is how meetings will happen and this is how life will be? Curious to hear your thoughts, Naila.
Well, I think it's just there's so many variables that is kind of flowing in through the system lately, and you don't know what is valid, what is primary, what is secondary, and the truth is always questioned. But on a very high level, there are two kind of leaderships that I've seen in this pandemic. One are obviously the classic organization leaders that we have. And one is the residence leadership. We as a community, each and every one of us were leaders through this pandemic, I believe. We have learned how to remain safe. We have learned patience and to stay away from our loved ones. And we have learned to have gratitude, which was always something that I think was always there, but we've never exercised gratitude. And obviously, with all this, comes with the great leadership of the country, that therefore the residents of the country have taken the initiative and keeping their loved ones and themselves safe. So that is something that we need to appreciate about each other, ourselves, you, me, Hassan, everybody on this YouTube platform today, because we would not have come as far as we have if we didn't have that leadership inside us and respect for each other's health.
Well, thank you, Naila, for that. And I was going to say, and I think one of the things that, look, I've been here now 10 years, right, in the UAE, and I'll be teaching leadership and talking about leadership. And everywhere I go over the past maybe decade, maybe trained in 50 countries around the world, people always, every time you mentioned Dubai, just not even the UAE, but you mentioned Dubai, right? Whether you're in a taxi cab in Prague or somewhere in southern US and so on, right away people are like, oh, Dubai, oh, very nice, right? So it's just that brand that has been created. And I guess the testing times we've had over the past 5 or 6 months have tested that brand. And for those of our audience who are listening in now, we've, by the way, got some questions coming in now, which we'll take a little bit later on. Those people who are watching us from all over the world, this is a case study in leadership. We're living through right now a case study in leadership. I'll take a couple of minutes. I'll tell you an interesting thing, Hassan. And I think, congratulations to you and Mabruk to you and Naila for, mashallah, the country that the citizens, you're citizens of a country which is all around leadership. And day after day, you guys see examples of great leadership from around you. I was delivering a workshop. This must have been now 3 years ago. And one of the participants, he said to me, he said, look, I want to tell you about leadership. I said, okay, tell me. And he said, you talk about agility and change management. You talk about trust in management. He goes, my family and I moved to the Emirat in 1933. Okay. I said, all right. He goes, we didn't even have water in Abu Dhabi. We used to live on the Corniche in Abu Dhabi. And he said, the water for taking a shower used to come from Dubai in diesel containers. And the only way somebody knew that you'd taken a shower, if you smelled of diesel, they said, oh, you're taking a shower today. He goes, that's how we lived for like 20 years and nothing changed. And he said, then the 60s came, and then he said, my brother and I owned this photography shop in Abu Dhabi. And this person by the name of Zayed, used to come, and he used to come visit our shop, and he used to ask us, show us pictures of big buildings and airports, show me pictures of what's happening around the world. And he would sit for hours and just visualize, right, and just look at all these pictures and so on. And he goes, then slowly our lives start to change. He said, in the early 70s, my family traveled, one of our elders traveled to Dubai, and he spoke to Sheikh Rashid. And he said, Sheikh Rashid said, one day there'll be these 8-lane highways between Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and there'll be these big malls and airports. And one of my elders said, have you been talking to Zayed? Because he says the same thing. And he goes, this optimism and this energy, that's what they gave to people. And then he told me one more thing. I have to tell you this. And for everyone listening who talks about leadership, this is what trust in leadership is. He goes, I'm sitting in my house as a young person, 1983, on the Corniche in Abu Dhabi. My door knocks. Tuk, tuk, tuk. He goes, somebody comes in. I'm from the ruler's court. Sheikh Zayed has said that, where you are right now, we need to build a hotel. So you need to move. He goes, such was our fate in our leadership that we never questioned where, why, how, when. He goes, we picked up and we moved. He goes, 3 years later, I'm sitting in my house, tuk, 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 door knocks, somebody comes to the ruler's court. He said, we're from the ruler's court. We just wanted to thank you for moving when you did 3 years ago. For the next few years, the revenue from this hotel is for you and your family. Here you go. Right? Like, oh my God. So we talk about great leadership. We talk about inspirational leadership. We talk about trust. That's what the Shayukh of the Emirat have displayed for many, many years. Hassan, I just wanted to ask you, if this thing, God forbid, this world that we are living in right now, this coronavirus and post-coronavirus pandemic, if this continues for the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, God forbid, and we need to keep operating and working like this, what are some qualities, and I'd love for you to answer it as well in a bit, what are some qualities, what are some characteristics that a leader needs to have? What are some qualities, Hassan, that you would recommend that a leader must have if you're going to thrive yourself and if you want your team or your organization to thrive?
Okay, thank you, Omar, for the question. I will start with saying happy birthday to our ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. Today is his birthday, 15th of July. A leader was born, and throughout his life, I think from childhood till now, he has made all the changes in Dubai, day after day, weeks after weeks, and people have seen, I have seen myself from my childhood, I have seen Dubai grow, which I have never seen in any other country growing on this speed. Okay. So this is very much appreciated not only by us as UAE nationals here in UAE, but also by many of the residents and other countries in the UAE, other countries outside the world. So everything is so fast developing that mashallah, every keeping the evil's eye away from our shuyukh. I would like to say that what qualities Sheikh Muhammad has, we should all, learn from it. We should, one of the quality I will say is how do you overcome the challenges?
Yeah.
So you take whatever, if you have now pandemic, what are the opportunities you see in it rather than getting a negativity out of it first? So, for example, now we are working from home. People in the beginning, they were saying, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I cannot meet the person physically to, and the processes are there. I cannot do my work well. But then how do you learn from it? That is an opportunity. So if you can't meet, what are the other ways of looking at it? I'm sure if this pandemic didn't happen, nobody will know how to work from home.
And nobody would do Zoom meetings and nobody would become an expert on this.
Yeah, I'm sure that also that some of the qualities is also how do you lead without being a leader. So
not just structural authority. And you don't, that's what Naila was saying in the beginning as well, that,
yes.
You don't have to be a manager to be a leader, right? A janitor can be a leader. We're all leaders at home, leaders in our community.
Yeah. So I think being what other qualities like are, from technology perspective, what are the things you can learn now from it? I think the best thing are from two areas I can see. One is technology, how you can learn from technology. The other is how you can learn from pharmaceutical companies, the medical companies, what they're doing at the moment, and how we can, take some of the best practices, what they're doing, and apply that in our workplace. So these are some of the qualities, what I can think right now. One of the other quality, what I can think right now is how do you be patient? Not just, getting worried, but how do you be patient and then think and act on it? Not just something happen and then you have to react on it. You don't have to react on it. Just sit back, relax, think, and act.
Interesting, Hassan, you say that, right? And I'm always curious to hear people like yourself and Naila, people who've achieved, success in their lives, in their professional and personal lives. So adaptability, right? This idea to be, are you truly agile, truly able to, like, for example, if you're listening to us right now, and if you're an accountant or you're an engineer, and that's what you've done your entire life, then maybe you got to learn coding. You got to learn how to develop a website. I don't know, right? I mean, maybe the skill sets that got us to where we've gotten right now in our lives are not going to be the skill sets that are going to help us thrive in the future. I want to go back, Hassan, to something you said earlier about, obviously, happy birthday to Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, of course. And, you mentioned this idea of great leadership. And I think one thing that stands out for me amongst the many, many others, and there's a great book of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid called My Vision. You can pick it up from Amazon. I strongly recommend to our viewers to read that book as well. And in it, he speaks about this. And there's this kind of idea. And I was attending a conference where somebody was telling us the story that, Sheikh Rashid, Sheikh Mohammed's father, would take him to Jabal Ali Port, where Jabal Ali Port is now. And they would stand there and say, one day this will be the world's biggest port. And people would say, here, what's the, how can it be here? And then after Fajr prayer, morning prayer, he would take his son, Sheikh Mohammed, to Dubai airport and say, one day this will be the world's biggest airport. And people would say, who wants to come to Dubai? And today, Dubai airport, over 110 million people transit through Dubai airport, well, before this pandemic. And then we have the second biggest container terminal in the world. How did these things happen? They didn't happen by chance. They didn't happen by coincidence. They happen with an unflinching, unrelenting vision. And I think that's an incredible quality to have right now, which is linked to what Hassan was saying, patience, right? It's not going to happen overnight. Naila, I'd love to bring you in. The same question, but from your perspective, what about some of the couple of qualities, Naila? What would you recommend? I loved what Hassan said about patience, that this too shall pass, right? And like everything else in life, this too will go away. Curious to hear, Naila, a couple of qualities. What would you suggest if you are listening to us, for the viewers, maybe people coming out of college, out of university right now? What are some of the couple of qualities that you'd say they want to have to thrive in the new world?
You see, change management, Omar, is a very big talk of the talks, basically, of the town, where people talk about change management constantly, books on change management. I think change management doesn't exist anymore, in my opinion. Change management is a mandated skill. So, for example, do we see cars lately that have no automatic windows? We hardly see any cars with manual windows anymore. Yeah, so all the cars that are being produced are automatic windows. So this is built in, particularly for the Gen Ys and Z, generation Ys and Zs. So it's a built-in system. We're an emerging country, and that is the way to be. You have to have that skill to survive in this emerging emerging nations and to be able to survive in these emerging nations. And when you ask me what are the attributes one should have, particularly when I say leadership should have, because the impact is basically people who have lost their jobs, which I'd like to emphasize, and who lost their well-being, and because of the organization loss ultimately. Leaders should project confidence in this time. When this impacted, they were less prepared. They should show and also reflect that a minimum amount of people will be hurt in this event. So we need to join hands and work as a team. The employees of our organizations are our non-biological family, but they are our family. To have the right leader, the right CEO, and the right human resource team is the most critical in the times of crisis. Again and again, the most important thing that as a skill I've seen some organizations demonstrate and many organizations have not is communication. Relentlessly communication, communication, and communication. This is obviously to avoid the rumors in the organization, but it has to be handled very strategically. Having said this, as well, as an organization, you impact your community. You need to demonstrate what are you doing as an organization to support your people, therefore supporting your community. You're not only answerable as leaders in the organization, the employees, you're also answerable to their families, I feel, because you impact their lives ultimately and how you drive your business. You have to show compassion, because in times of crisis, it's very important to manifest compassion, because it's a sign of true leadership. Yeah.
Love it.
Lastly, cash is basically king in companies and with individuals, whether you're a homemaker or you don't have a job or you're running an organization. Cash is the most critical thing for all of us. And when we look at organization, and I've worked for a different organization, they have security teams, crisis management, but it's all about evacuating people and taking them to safety. But in my opinion, we need to leverage from this experience, because this is not the first pandemic, and this is not going to be the last.
Sure.
So we need to be stronger and we need to be smarter. And to do this we need to leverage by the experience. So therefore, the crisis management envelope should also have an implication of the financials. So when we have a crisis, how long can we carry people? What happens? So everything is ready. And then of course the wellness should also be kicking in the background. So when a crisis happens, it's just much better managed.
Love it, Naila. This is, and you know, we've, I don't know how many sessions I've been a part of where financial wellness keeps coming up, right? So we talk about, Hassan, physical wellness. We talk about mental wellness, but then obviously there's that financial wellness piece as well. So Naila, if I can summarize what you said, and I loved it. So you're talking about change management. You're saying, look, change management is not something, it's not a good to have, right? It's the need of, you know, it should be kind of built in, right? Tony Robbins says, if you work the same way for 10 years, you haven't worked 10 years, you worked your first year 10 times. And you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We've seen organizations go belly up, right? So if somebody remembers the company Kodak, remember Kodak, right? In 1997, Kodak had almost 87% of the world's market share of film. 2010, 11, they declared bankruptcy. And people always say digital camera because cell phone camera. Yeah, but that's just the symptom, right? The cause was that it did not adapt. And my Canadian friend BlackBerry, right? Anybody still have a BlackBerry if you're listening, right? What happened to BlackBerry, right? 2006, BlackBerry had 67% of the world's market share of new smartphones. Today, it's less than 1%. And we're talking 10 years. We're not talking 100 years. Did you know that out of the Fortune 500 companies in 1955, only 11 remain today? So change, or you will be changed, like Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid says. Also, it's one of the things, Hassan, I was thinking when you were talking about Sheikh Mohammed, I was listening to his interview on CNN. This is now 5-6 years ago. And the reporter keeps saying, crisis. And he says, you mean change? And he says the word crisis again, and he means change. And after the third time, the reporter says, Sheikh, I don't think you like the word crisis. He goes, no, because crisis means maybe we'll succeed, maybe we'll fail. We believe this is a change, and we need to continue to adapt and grow. And I also really, really like, Naila, what you said about being prepared as an organization. So if you run a small business right now, and if you're listening to us, or if you plan to open up a business, this contingency planning, right? And I'm shocked. You hear these big organizations, Hassan, large organizations that have thrived for decades, right? Billions after billions they've made. Pandemic happens, next month they lay off people. So what happened to all the money? How come you didn't even have a reserve to take care of your people, even for 1 month or 2 months? And I know it's not so simplistic because they're thinking about the next 6 months, but goodness, unfortunately, when organizations treat humans as human resources, that's when you're going to get into trouble. I have one final question to you, Hassan, and then to Naila, and then maybe we have some questions we'll take, and then we'll wrap up. Hassan, I wanted to ask you, in the decade, or almost 2 decades of experience you've had in managing teams and leading teams, and kind of helping people grow and develop, you were talking about going online now. You said that the moment this thing happened, Emirates and BD made the decision. Obviously, you guys went virtual and you started doing as many things as you could virtually. I'm just curious to ask you, Hassan, in your experience, are leaders, let's say if you're sitting right now in your office and you're dealing with what's been happening, and past 3 months have been very anxious and stressful for you, I wanted to ask you, does stress bring out the best in leaders, or does stress bring out the worst in leaders? Yani, empathy, right? This topic of empathy, and I know Naila spoke about compassion, but I'll just use the word empathy. Yani, I'm just curious, Hassan, in your experience, do leaders become more empathic in difficult times? Yani, let me take care of people and so on. Or do they become less empathic? Yani, me, myself, and I. Well, what's your experience been, brother?
Okay, thank you, Amar, for this question. I think empathy, again, it comes when you have these kind of situations and difficult times. There are different kind of leaders. So some take it negatively, some take it positively. So some take it in empathy wise. So they do compassion for people, they do compassion for the workers they have in the organization. Plus, also they see not only for them, as Naila said, also for their families. So to that extent, they go for empathy. But if there are people who look after more of business oriented, financially business oriented, they look after the upcoming of the industry, the upcoming of the organization. So how you can still run the organization, how you can still make profit and make less losses. So you also have to look out on laying off people, laying off the salaries. So you have both the ways of doing it. And you should have both ways to keep it a balanced way. You should have both ways. But of course, when you take out when you say human resources, it's of course all about human. So how you be human, first of all, then being a worker, then being the workplace is second versus the human part. So how you compassionately, you touch your heart first, and then you think. The other way around is first think and then your heart. So you don't listen to your heart first. You think first how you can bring out the organization up, the financial status up, and then you think about the people. So you should have both leaders. You should have a balance of it, and then only your industry can move forward. The industry and the organization can move forward. I will say, as again, as Sheikh Muhammad said, his three signs, the victory sign. So what are these? This is win, victory, and love. You should have three of this to make your organization grow. So you should have love for your people. You should have the win for the industry. You should have victory for the organization as well.
I love it, Hassan. I'll tell you something interesting, right? When I moved almost a decade ago, 10 years ago to the UAE, right? And it was just shocked me because originally I'm from Pakistan. That's where I was born and raised. And then I was in Canada for almost a decade. And, most people would complain about their leaders and complain about their, governments and so on. And I moved to the UAE here. Then I was like, eventually I'm going to find someone who complains about their leaders. And I couldn't find anybody. I couldn't find anybody. Everybody spoke about, what was happening. And so, of course, there's frustrations. And of course, some people you can't keep everyone happy all the time. But when you've got an unflinching, unrelenting way forward, there's only one way we're going, and that's forward, right? Either you're with us or get out of the way. And that just kind of inspires people. It energizes people. And if you're listening from around the world right now, UAE right now is probably the safest place in the world, inshallah, that you can come and you can visit. And we need people back. We need visitors back, and we need tourists back. And we're definitely set up for that. Let me bring you in, Naila, and a final question from my side, and we'll take maybe a quick couple of questions from our viewers, and then we'll wrap up. Naila, love to ask you if the wellness piece that Hassan was speaking about, right? Hassan and I have done some work together on thinking from the heart, right? This idea of thinking from the heart, right? Not from the head. But what would you say, Naila, these wellness initiatives? And I'd love for you to speak about Amal, your organization, because I want you to tell people maybe where they can reach out to you guys as well, because my worry and the worry of several academics and people who do sessions and seminars like we do is the amount of uncertainty, anxiety people are feeling right now. And would you agree with me that stress has medical repercussions as well? Stress has, relationship repercussions as well. God forbid, divorce and people and all that kind of negative kind of stuff that comes around this idea of operating under high levels of stress. So, what is Amal doing? How can people visit you? How can people see you? And how can we support you, Naila?
Before Omar, thank you. Before I actually promote and tell people a little bit about this initiative, I wanted to actually share to the community who's listening out, it's stress, whether it be stress or depression or anxiety or OCD. It all boils down to just one simple word. It's unhappiness. When you're an unhappy person, you're not going to do well in your job. If you're unhappy, you won't do well in your relationships. If you're unhappy, you won't stay healthy. And therefore, if you put up your hand and become brave enough and say, yes, I need help, that's the 50% step that you're taking in order to become happy and to become well and to get, a better career perspective and have better relationships. Now, Amal Counseling for a Better Tomorrow. That is the name of the initiative. Amal Counseling for a Better Tomorrow. Counseling for a Better Tomorrow is the tagline, but Amal is the initiative. We chose that name because in Arabic it means hope. We have a Dubai Economic Department permit to promote this CSR and counseling platform. The initiative is a non-profit organization Therefore, it's free of cost to whoever's out there who requires counseling in my community, whether they are nationals or non-nationals. I have to emphasize this because it's an Arabic word. This is a UAE national platform. People may understand that we are only open to only the nationals, but that's not the case, because almost 15% of our population are non-national, and they are a part of our community and the success of our country today.
85% non-national, yeah.
We have about 15% nationals.
Local,
I may
yeah,
have got
exactly,
it wrong,
yeah.
and then so 85% non-nationals,
Of course.
yes, who have made the success of our nation today. We have different disciplines of counseling on these platforms, and we are opening to supporting anyone and everyone who come and seek help.
For those of you who are listening, you can obviously follow Naila Al-Musawi on LinkedIn as well, where there is plenty of information on Amal counseling.
Omar, can I just interrupt
please,
something?
please,
Sorry.
please.
I
Please.
thought it's also important to mention here that this initiative is so special that it's run by a team of selfless volunteers.
Fantastic.
And really, really passionate team of counselors and administrators who's managing the brand, who's managing my social media. And they are such selfless people who want to truly give back to the community, and my counselors as well. And they're probably listening in as well right now. And this is why it's so special, because everybody has to come in, and there's so many volunteers who've actually raised their hand, despite that they have no expertise whatsoever. How can we help? How can we help? This is a success of a community. It's a success of an organ, of a nation. When you have your residents and your citizens come and join hands and want to make the best of the situation that we're in.
Fantastic. Naila, congratulations on the fantastic work that you're doing, on the amount of people that you're helping. And I know this is just almost the beginning of your journey, and that's what it is, right? It's a journey, it's not a destination, right? There's never going to be a point where everybody's at that level of happiness or contentment or rida or kana, or that we speak about. So it's a journey, and may Allah bless you for working as hard, and your volunteers as well. So if you're listening to this, make sure that you look them up, and if you have the time and resources, and if you want to give of your time, then definitely that's the place to go. Quickly, just maybe a couple of more minutes. I just have one question for Hassan, and then maybe one last question for Naila, and then I'll release you into society and let you go back to work and your normal lives. Hassan, somebody was asking before about communication. They were saying, when Hassan spoke about, and I know Naila mentioned communication as well, one of the critical things that organizations, I think, make a tremendous mistake on, they do not involve their people enough. So they have this kind of decisions being made by somebody else, and I'm just the one being impacted. Hassan, just curious, over at your organization, what are some of the things that you guys are doing for communication? Any town halls, virtual meetings, emails, newsletters, anything, Hassan, you guys are doing to keep people engaged, to keep communicating with people?
Okay. Regarding the communication, I think, but I have seen that communication is very open. It is through emails exchange. It is from senior management to your team members. So, for example, if there is some very high-level communication from the board, it goes to the unit heads, and the unit heads then communicate to the rest of the people in the unit. I think regarding communication, it's we also had we call it HR huddle. So in our HR unit, it's called HR huddle. What we do is every month we have our head of HR coming in and then talking to people what the person has decision made from the board. So what is the senior management talking about, and how we are going ahead, especially during these pandemic COVID-19, what we have done so far and how we can go ahead in the organization. So I think the communication is not an issue with us. What I feel, the communication should not be an issue. The communication should be open flow, and it can be from both the ways. So, for example, if any smaller employee has an issue with something or is curious to know something, that employee can reach out to head of units, can reach out to senior management, and so on. And at the moment, I have seen this happening from our organization as well. I have seen that communication is an open area where you communicate freely, you get to know what is happening, and through this only you can build trust. If you communicate properly with your employees, you build trust, and you get also to participation of people in. So when you get the participation in, you will know what they are at the moment they are doing, you will know how they are behaving, you will know how they are working, their stress level, they are okay or no. So you know, from communication, you strike out many other negativity in it as well. So you have open communication flow, and your people are good.
It's fantastic, right, Hassan? And I love what you said about it. Communication is both ways. So communication doesn't mean that I just keep hearing from my senior management and I have no voice to be able to speak. So in fact, communication is two-way, where it's giving and receiving feedback. And we always say that it is in the absence of communication that trust erodes, right? It's in the absence of communication that things go wrong. So good news or bad news, better than no news, right? Good news or bad news, better than no news. And final question, Naila, to you then. I wanted to ask you, somebody was asking about, the wellness, and I know you and I have spoken about that as well, right? We have spoken about how wellness now will become has to become part of an organizational setup. So counselors like yourself and your team, people who are doing this great work, it's not just a good to have. Do you expect, Naila, or do you hope at least, that in the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, that wellness is going to become just like a finance function, just like an IT function, just like are we going to have wellness as a serious part of organizational setup? Or is it going to remain a good to have? Just curious to have your thoughts.
Well, health and safety once upon a time was a luxury function. I think it came to a mandate function for industrial organizations in the 1970s. That is about the health. Everybody keeps talking about health, and it pertains to the body, where individuals would get hurt by using heavy equipment or having a car accident. Therefore, you have to have the seat belt. But truly, the human mind is the one that gets hurt consistently, every day, every time, and everywhere. So the the organ, that body that has most impact is our brain and our mind. And I hope, and it is the only way to be, that wellness will be integrated. It is a key, a critical function of the human resources. And this is how the HR trends and what is expected from HR professionals like us in the world today, is to be able to provide that wellness and the support and the coaching and the mentorship, and just talk to employees and keep basically, it's a completely different category when we talk about learning and development, or operations, or comp and ben. So this is what represents the human resource, human capital subject matter experts today. And I really do hope that we learn, as I said, from what's happening around us. and we accelerate the wellness initiative within our workforce.
Naila Al-Musawi, Hassan Amin, thank you so much for taking the time to be on our platform. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. For those of you who've been with us, you know this is a part of a regular series that we do. We try to bring you from across different functions, different nationalities, different areas of the world, thoughts and ideas on how we can emerge out of what we're facing as almost better off than we went when we went in, right? So we will truly have succeeded. We would have truly beaten the virus, flattened the curve, in my opinion, if we come out of this better human beings, better at our relationships with our loved ones, and better at our work. That's how I think we'll beat this pandemic, right? And I think that's where the success really lies. Our panelists today shared some great ideas. They shared ideas on how you can prepare yourself for the world that's going to come post Corona, right? Change management, adaptability, communication. This idea of giving, right? So giving, like Naila and her team are doing, because the more you give, the more you get, right? And it's the more positivity you give out, and usually what goes around, what comes around as well. We also had we learned from the stories of the Shayukh of the Emirat and how they passed on leadership and visionary leadership, right? And how they helped their people become the best versions of themselves. If you're a leader of people, if you're a manager of people listening to us, ask yourself the question, are you helping your team become, are you helping your people become the best versions of themselves or not? And are you constantly developing? The first thing Hassan said is, if you're not going to invest in development now, if you're not going to develop yourself right now, then when? Right? When would you do it? I hope you've enjoyed our short conversation with our leaders and our colleagues. This recording will remain available on YouTube as well for you to be able to share and for you to be able to see. Please do subscribe to our channel as we continue to engage other leaders and talk about other topics that'll get us they'll not get us through just what we're facing right now, but help us thrive in the times ahead. On that note, Naila Al-Musawi, Hassan Amin, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys very shortly with some more stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.